Okay, welcome back to WorkTech. It's George LaRocque here, and I've got some more industry news, big funding news. I'm excited to have the CEO and co-founder of Stoke with me, Shahar Erez. Shahar, thank you for being here.
Hey, George, great to be here.
Yeah, well, you've got a big announcement to make about funding for Stoke, and I'll let you share the news with the market. So what have you got to share with us today?
Oh, thank you. So we just closed our Series A literally a couple of days ago, $15 million led by Battery Ventures. This is our A round. Our seed round was about 2 years ago, $4.5 million. And it's been a phenomenal year for us. Again, there's a lot of turmoil over 2020, but for us, a lot of the aftermath of COVID has really worked well. And with the growth we experienced, we were able to get enough interest and get Battery Ventures. Was probably one of the top VCs to lead our A round, which is really exciting.
Well, congrats. That's huge validation for Stoke. And now I know you and I have had conversations before. We've done a podcast, so I know Stoke. But for anybody who doesn't, why don't you share, what it is, where you fit in the market, and what it is that you provide?
Sure. Stoke's platform really streamlines the entire process for organizations that manage what we call non-payroll workforce, freelancers, contractors, consultants, gig workers. There's really different terms to manage it. Everyone that's doing work for the company, but not on its payroll, from sourcing to onboarding, getting them to sign the right legal documents, tax forms, making sure they qualify from workforce classification standpoint, and managing the entire process, onboarding, offboarding, payments, to make sure the company is safe and leaders in the organization are empowered to actually leverage the growing number of independent contractors out there to accelerate growth for the company.
Yeah, what I like about Stoke, the thing that really rang out for me was the fact that you're doing two things, right? The first is compliance. You're keeping everybody compliant, which sounds boring, but it's important, right? People are afraid of compliance. But at the same time, you're really empowering everyone in the organization, the actual leaders that are managing these departments using the freelancers or contractors. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you accomplish both?
Yeah, absolutely. So I built Stoke out of my own personal experience running operations in a variety of companies. And I come to the fact that along with the changes that we've experienced in the industry over the last 2 decades, companies need to respond faster. And as a leader, I constantly needed to either hire headcount or scrape projects because we just couldn't execute. And as I started working with this flexible workforce, getting more contractors, there's a lot of opportunity because there's so many out there that can help you achieve that. But the internal organizational bureaucracy is kind of suffocating the ability to leverage that workforce. And so when we built Stoke, we actually built it with that in mind. How do you make it simple for any manager in the organization that has budget or access to budget and needs to get work done to go ahead and do it self-serve? It's very much like we've experienced with the transition in cloud computing. If you 15 years ago, if you wanted to build an application, you had to go through IT, finance, get approvals, and so forth. Now you hit a few keyboard strokes and you got a machine up and running in AWS. Very similar concept to do with workforce. And so over the last, I'd say, decade, we've seen a lot of marketplaces, mostly consumer marketplaces, emerging, like the Fivers and Upworks and Freelancer.com. There's about 800 of them out there right now. Most are built for kind of consumer or transactional business. Swipe your credit card and get something at the other end. But there was really a lack for a very similar platform for corporates, where there's a lot more scrutiny, there's budget constraints, there's legality, there's compliance, there's regulations, there's policies that will help organizations cross that bridge towards agile workforce. So to your point, the platform makes it very simple to managers, but on the other side, without anybody needing to notice, make sure that the organization is fully compliant. We've seen a lot of organizations spend a lot of resources, time, and energy making sure that the workforce is compliant. HR, mostly employees are compliant, right? You've got compliance within HR, HRISs, taxation, payments, payroll, open enrollment. There's a lot of different processes out there. When it comes to contractors, no one really in the organization owns these people. And there's a ton of complexity and risk that's really getting ignored in a lot of these organizations. Just to name a few, just last year, we've seen the, AB5 turning into Prop 22 in California, who's allowed to be an independent contractor. But if before even getting to that level of complexity, independent contractors don't get paid on time. Independent contractors sometimes don't get paid until the employer gets paid by their client. And so they're getting paid like 3 or 4 months behind. And so what Stoke is doing is actually streamlining the entire process, making sure that managers have the access, they have the control, they have the visibility to get the right contractors to work for them. And the company is safe from all aspects of IP, data protection, workforce classification, and so forth.
Yeah. It's really an interesting model. And we've been talking about the rise of the independent workforce, the hybrid workforce for a long time. And we're starting to sort of get where we predicted, where, it's somewhere over 40% now of the workforce. Certainly 50% of the workforce has worked as a freelancer or contractor or independent worker at some point in their career. So this is, and as we come out of the pandemic, given, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, it tends to be a time where freelancers and contractors are leveraged. So it's a very timely solution. So that's there's Stoke. Now again, back to the deal. That's why we're here. So 15 million Series A. You've given us some background on what you're doing and why, but why the deal now? Like what was going on that led you to raise those funds at this point in time?
I think there were two main factors that have led to the deal. Number one is more subjective, and that's obviously the VCs looked at the team, the performance, ran background checks, spoke to our customers, and saw, looked at the cohort of how customers that started to use Stoke are actually growing with the platform, the feedback they're giving, and how much time it saves them, how much it increases their agility and performance. And so that was on one end. I think the other side was, the shift we're seeing in the industry, exactly what you said. We've been seeing this shift for 2 decades now. IRS is kind of showing the numbers. 1099s are growing 3 times faster compared to W-2s. COVID has accelerated a transition towards flexible workforce. Bureau of Labor Statistics was forecasting 60% of workforce freelancing by 2030. I don't know if it's going to get to 60 or land at 55. It doesn't matter. It's a huge number any way you look at it. And there was a realization during COVID that I think we're still not fully comprehending. The number of individual businesses that were established during the last quarter of 2020 spiked at about 40, I think it was 43% or something or of that sort. I can send you the details, but it's really phenomenal. People came to the realization they need to take control of their own career. There is no such thing as job security anymore. 3 significant economic crises in 20 years. You got 2000, 2008, 2020. So people realize they need to assume control. Working from home, all of a sudden, is very possible. I can build a business from my home. And I think now we're seeing businesses that are going back to normal, if there's such a thing, normal, and kind of demanding people back at the office. And people are saying, I'm not going back to 5 days at the office anymore. Are they giving the flexibility, or I'll go do something else? There's been plenty of posts over the last 2 weeks, I think, on LinkedIn about the big resignation wave. People are kind of saying, I'm not showing up, take me as I am, working from home, or I'll go do my own thing. And so I don't know where it's going to land. I don't know if we've seen full acceleration, and we're going to grow from the 35 to 40% people in the 1099 form towards that 45 to 50% over the next 2 years. But if it's not over the next 2 years, it's over the next 3 to 4 years.
Right.
And so I think these were the two main drivers to that, to Battery leading this round.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So now the funding is here, and what are your plans for it?
Um, I thought I'm going to spend it in Hawaii or something like that, but I'm coming into business. So, you know, we've been able to prove with our seed round what I would call product usage fit. There's, people that have dealt with the platform or grown with it. We've seen zero churn with customers that started using the platform, which is awesome, obviously. And now we need to double down. Doubling down means we're building out our sales and marketing teams to be able to execute faster and penetrate a lot more accounts. There's a lot more that we want to do with the product, obviously, to make it even simpler for companies and expand our ecosystem. So we have an ecosystem of partners through which we help companies source their freelance talent. One of the unique things about Stoke is Stoke doesn't take any cut from the freelancer, unlike a lot of the other marketplaces that are making their, or at least most of their revenue is by taking a cut of what the freelancer receives. We're not taking anything from the freelancers or consultants because we want to make sure that the best of the best are happy to work with Stoke and don't feel like we're making anything off their back. And so we're expanding our ecosystem, building out that outreach. So any company that wants to build out the agile workforce can do that through Stoke. So these are kind of three things that we're investing in.
Great. Now, so I'm always curious, how do you see this, these moves impacting your customer base? What will they see based on this investment and where you're headed?
Well, a lot of our customers, again, we got a pretty positive cohort. Most of our customers actually want, I think the most, beyond the fact, it's flattering to have battery on the cap table. I'm mostly proud of the fact that 3 of our customers are actually now on my cap table as well.
Oh, wow.
Because they like the product, they saw where the industry is heading, and they said, we want to be on the cap table. And it was humbling. Again, small amounts. This is not a game changer, but the fact that they're there, I think, is the best testimonial to what we've built and where the market's heading. And I think what they're expected to see is simpler platform, access to more talent, and expansion within the organization to other parts to increase their agility.
Yeah. And for employees, another big constituency, a lot of times these deals get talked about and, the employees see a big impact. It sounds like it's all growth. You're scaling up in a few key areas. Any particular places that you're scaling or departments or areas that you think you'll be investing in?
I don't think there's any. Well, again, I'm currently focused a lot on building outbound sales and marketing.
Okay. Yeah.
But we're investing everywhere. If you think about, we're a pretty nimble company. Up until, I'd say, 3 weeks ago, we're 12 people, and so it's just all across the board we're investing. So we're expanding R&D. We just recruited 2 more engineers. We're growing our marketing team. We're growing our sales team. Now we're building customer success. And so all across the board, there's more and more function that will be added. There's obviously the more customers we will need to build out support at some point. The more independent contractors we deal with, we need to support them. And so there's across the board, there's going to be investment.
Yeah. And I know this market and a lot of folks that watch these, we're talking about a independent worker platform here. And you mentioned contractors, and we had the conversation before recording. You've used a lot of contractors and continue. You're, drinking your own Kool-Aid. No, eating your own dog food, as they say. You're practicing what you preach, if you
yeah. Totally. And again, it has nothing to do with Stoke. Obviously, now that we have Stoke, it's a lot easier. But there's really 2 core things that I found with it. Number one, I started dealing with freelancers, I think it was 2012 or 2013 when I tried to bootstrap my previous company. I got exposure into this, marketplaces model where I can make a decision that I need to work with someone, and then, 48 hours later, someone's doing something. And so I'm a big fan of that model because I think the number one thing for companies today that will get them either to survive or thrive is the ability to respond quickly. That agility wins. Things are accelerating. Your ability to respond will determine whether you live or die. The second thing is, how do you make it simple for anyone in the organization to adopt that model? How do you empower the rest of the organization to go and get shit done? Because what I've seen in organization, again, and I was, I was C-level executive at companies, and still it's like, do I have the budget? Don't I have the budget? Where do I get? Do I need to talk to the GC? Do I have the budget? Like, you spend so much time with the internal bureaucracy instead of on execution that it kills the ability to drive growth. And what Stoke does is really empower anyone in the organization. You need to get something done, go do it. The platform will make sure that we're safe from IP, data protection, contracts are signed, payments are paid on time, doesn't matter where that person is in the world, just go get things done. And that's a tremendous change. And when I recruited my head of marketing, she's been with us for 5 months now, I think, and kind of tell her, hey, here's your budget on the platform, go work with it. And every now and again, I just see there's more contractors, PR agency and designers and content writers and website designers. Like, she's working with these individuals, and it's all happening in a much higher pace than can be done in any other shape or form.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. And so one last question for you as we're, I could talk about the independent workforce and where Stoke plays for hours, but what's next for Stoke? What's, I know the deal is still, the ink is still drying on the term sheets and all of that. But when you look ahead as far as you can, where do you see Stoke going in the near future?
So I'll take a step back and kind of say, I'll say where the industry is heading and then where we fit in. If we go back 15 years, a lot of companies still use spreadsheet to manage their employees, right? And we went through a significant digital transformation there because it didn't make sense anymore. Right. When we walk into 90 to 95% of deals today, we're running into independent contractors being managed in spreadsheets. And so over the next 10 years, every company will need a system to manage their independent contractors, because that's going to be 20 to 40% of their workforce. They cannot be managed in a spreadsheet. With growing scrutiny, regulation, Biden supporting the PRO Act, Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh saying they're going to fight, companies that misclassify independent contractors. IRS claiming 25 to 35% of companies misclassify independent contractors. And so there needs to be a system in place. Every company needs a platform to manage their independent contractors. I think we're very well positioned to be a significant player in that space. Are we the only ones there? Almost. There's others trying to do things in that space as well. Obviously, I think we're the superior product. And so my intent is to be the platform of choice to all these companies.
Great. Well, I wish you the best of luck with that. I've certainly been impressed, and always a pleasure to chat. Thank you again for being here, and congrats on the deal.
Thanks, George. Always a pleasure spending time together. Look forward to our next time.
All right.